and welcome or welcome back. My name is V, and today I would like to talk about my first experiences and thoughts regarding Final Fantasy IX. For those of you who don't know me yet, I am a jrpg and a Final Fantasy content creator and streamer. Lately, I haven't been streaming that much Final Fantasy, and for the first time in a very, very long time, I've decided to record an offline playthrough of a game, which in this case is Final Fantasy IX, that I'm playing for the first time, and I have quite a bit to say. If you happen to be new to the channel, make sure to subscribe, and if you're interested in my full Final Fantasy IX playthrough, which is still in progress, but I'm uploading it in the playlist, you can find the playlist in the pinned comment of this video. Do leave the video a like for the algorithm, and let's get into it. Now, I have to say straight away as a disclaimer that Final Fantasy IX playthrough is a little bit of a different experience for me than all the other Final Fantasies. I started playing Final Fantasies as a Final Fantasy XIV streamer and content creator in general, and that was a fully online experience where I was playing with my community, streaming it, and going through the MSQ. I pretty much did the same thing with Final Fantasy X, 10 to 8, and 7, Crisis Core, all these other Final Fantasy games. And with some of them, I had a less than favorable experience when it comes to just streaming it, not getting myself spoiled, and not going through a bunch of backseating in the chat, which definitely was not pleasant. So this time around, I decided to record my Final Fantasy IX playthrough and upload it to YouTube. And so far, I have no regrets. It's a very special experience for me where I'm essentially in control of my time and my experience as a creator. And I actually feel like I am getting to go through the story on my own terms and enjoy it a lot more with without the chat is essentially, which is not normally what I feel when I'm live streaming. When I'm live streaming, obviously I care about my chat and I want to have this interaction at all times, but this game in particular is a game that I feel is meant to be played offline. There's just something about it. The way it's written, the way everything in it is presented is so charming that it might just be one of the most special Final Fantasy games that I've played in a very, very, very long time. And I think that a lot of that has something to do with how the characters are written in particular. I love how quirky they are and how in depth every one of them was written to the point that I am about 10 hours into the game and I can already tell who's who has which quirks, who's like this and who's like that. And I know that a lot of people obviously want to know what my favorite character is, and uh, it's the answer for to this question is pretty unlikely for me. My favorite character so far is Steiner. Now, Steiner is just a character with a lot of flaws, but to me, he's just such a pure-hearted, innocent, and at the same time ignorant character that makes him so comical, and I love every single interaction of him with someone else in the world or even when he is on his own. Because the thing about Steiner is that he is so funny even when no one is watching. And he doesn't understand how funny he is. And that's one of the traits and one of the things that I really, really enjoy in in-game characters. Every time I see Steiner popping up in game, I know that something funny is about to happen, and he just really makes my day. Obviously, I'm still very, very early into the game, and this doesn't mean that I'm in any way, shape, or form in agreement with how he's handling the situation regarding, the princess and everything. But I'm having a lot of fun doing his story and just seeing where his character development is going to go. So far, I that's my favorite character. I am enjoying the story immensely, and everybody else is very, very charming and just has something about them. For example, Vivi, I'm hoping I'm pronouncing the name right, but Vivi is absolutely precious and should be protected at all costs. Now, I'm still very early into the game, but the way they wrote Vivi and the way he's presented as such an innocent, childlike, and caring character who is just very confused by the current circumstances with the the mage looking people who we're seeing is just so precious to me, and I really am looking forward to seeing where the story goes from here. Now, when it comes to the game in general, I have to say I'm having so much fun with the bosses, and I feel like I am not particularly underleveled for any of the boss fights, and yet I feel like they are challenging, and like there are certain strategies to be respected for each one of the boss fights, which honestly reminds me of Final Fantasy IV, which is by far one of my most favorite Final Fantasy solo game playthroughs, not counting Final Fantasy XIV, of course. Funnily enough, Final Fantasy XIV is one of the reasons why I decided to play Final Fantasy IV in the first place, due to the story of Endwalker, and I just fell in love with the game completely. Now, I played the Final Fantasy IV 3D remake version on Steam, and playing through Final Fantasy IX and going into these boss fights reminds me of that experience. Not just because of the beginning soundtrack, which kind of reminds me of that Final Fantasy IV combat music, at least at the start of the track. It's also because I remember how each one of the bosses in FF4 had strategies and quirks to it, and you couldn't just go and throw items at it or spells at it, and that was that. So the bosses are quite memorable, and even more memorable than in some of the newer games that I'm playing, and some of the games that I actually find to be quite dear to me at this point. So I'm having a lot of fun with that. The one thing that I'm not sure I'm enjoying so far when it comes to combat is the whole trance system. Now, I get that they were trying something new where in some of the other Final Fantasy games, you are in control of when your limit break or trance or whatever you want to call it is happening, and here you are just not in control of it. I feel like I would really want to ideally be in control of it, and I haven't really listened to or seen many reviews of Final Fantasy IX, which makes sense because I'm still early into the game and I'm not really looking them up or anything. But I feel like people in general wouldn't be so happy about this and aren't so happy about essentially not being in control of their experience. I feel like sometimes I'm, let's say, killing a ladybug and I'm suddenly in this trance that is going to essentially go to waste if I don't spend it. And sometimes when I'm really in an unfortunate situation against a boss fight, when I could really use trance, I feel like it's not available to me. Now, it's fine. I'm letting go of this whole limit break idea and just being able to use it whenever I do want to. And I've started to see it as a bonus rather than something that is guaranteed to help me in a fight. So I always do try to have my gear and accessories and abilities and everything else optimized before I go into a fight. And I don't necessarily count on having a superpower to kind of get me out of trouble. Now, when it comes to the soundtrack, this is an absolute vibe for me, and I'm loving it. I first fell in love with it when I heard the combat soundtrack, which, like I said, reminds me a little bit of Final Fantasy IV, and to me, that was an instant win. Right now, I am just exiting Trano, and I am going through this dungeon that is not particularly beloved by people, but this intro soundtrack for that dungeon is something that really made me fall in love with with the city and the atmosphere there, and I think that it is just overall a gorgeous soundtrack. And the map music is good, the city music is good, and even the intro music, like the I'm having fun with it. It's a really nice theme, and it's not annoying to me. And sometimes I do have a problem with these intro songs being a little annoying to me. This one I just vibe with, and immediately when I hear it, I feel at peace because of the way I play Final Fantasy IX, because of the way I record it. I start the game, I have my cup or something bigger than a cup of coffee, and immediately it reminds me of a very, very peaceful time. And I have to say, this is something that is very private to me. But this way of playing through Final Fantasy IX was largely influenced by my partner, Neon Genesis, who was there with me when I started playing Final Fantasy IX, and we are currently in two different countries. And just kind of working on closing that distance. But at the same time, me starting the game while he was here and visiting me, and essentially sitting next to me while I was playing through these first few hours of Final Fantasy IX is such a precious memory to me. And I know that this is just something that's completely, completely private to me. And I'm even surprised that I'm sharing this today. But it just reminds me of a very peaceful, happy time, and reminds me of that personal connection that I have as well. And overall, it made my experience with Final Fantasy IX so much better. And I feel so cozy whenever I log into the game because of all these, good memories of it that I already have. And it's just a very precious game to me. At the end of the day, the game itself so far is beautiful, and I'm even surprised with the amount of cutscenes that the game has. So I think that the FMVs are definitely ahead of its time. And when I started the game at first, I was so surprised with just how many of these movies they were playing for us. The cutscene where you are on that airship, where the airship is getting hit and you're trying to escape the castle, and then the cutscene of the Forbidden Forest and whatnot. They are also very impressive, and I think that the game definitely is and was ahead of its time. And I know that a lot of people are crying for the remake, and one day it might happen, one day. It might not at all, but at the same time, I think that there is a certain charm to the game, and I am definitely not complaining. I'm not gonna lie, I do enjoy retro games, but sometimes I do need to feel like the game is pretty on the eyes for me to be able to look at. That doesn't mean that it shouldn't be pixely because I'm a huge fan of pixel art. But some games I just don't vibe with in particular. But this one is a game that I think is really, really beautiful, and I have no problems with playing through the game. I think that it looks adorable, it looks charming, and I can definitely continue playing through it and feel good about it and enjoy the environment because at the end of the day, I think it's gorgeous. These little villages that I've already visited, I think that they are absolutely precious. And I just really hope that if the game is not spoilery for you and if you're curious about my playthrough, that you will check it out, as seeing these places for the first time was just very, very special for me. So if you're in any way curious about it, I do hope that you'll check it out. Like I said, the playthrough is in the pinned comment of this video, so I hope you'll enjoy it with me as well. That's pretty much it. That's all that I had to say when it comes to my first impressions on Final Fantasy IX. I would love to hear what your thoughts on it are, and please do refrain from spoilers, not just for myself as I'm still playing through the game, but for others who might be reading the comments as well. Thank you so much for watching this video. Do leave it a like if you enjoyed it, and make sure to subscribe to the channel. I upload Final Fantasy IX playthrough videos once or twice a week, and apart from that, you can find a lot of other JRPG content on this channel, Final Fantasy playthroughs, Persona playthroughs, and a bunch of other good stuff. So I hope you'll love that too. Thanks for watching. Have a lovely rest of your day, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye bye.